Tripp meets a woman who outranks him in every way that matters. It started on a Wednesday night, late, just after 11 p.m., the kind of time when the streets of Toledo, Ohio, are mostly empty. A few workers heading home, and one Lieutenant Colonel, Adrienne Wallace, driving through town. She had just wrapped up a meeting 2 hours south and was in her government-issued black SUV, nothing flashy, just clean, simple, and quiet, like her. She'd been on the road a while, humming softly, mind already drifting toward home. She wasn't speeding, swerving, or doing anything wrong. But Sergeant Daniel Mercer saw it differently. He was parked near Reynolds Road, sipping lukewarm coffee and scrolling his phone, bored out of his mind. The shift had been slow, no calls, no action. Then, an unfamiliar SUV passed by. He tossed the cup, flicked on the lights, and was behind her before Adrienne had a chance to react. She eased over, calm and controlled, just like she'd been trained. In her mirror, she saw the cruiser door slam shut and a tall man approach, hand on his holster, flashlight in the other. He came straight to her window. No greeting. License and registration, he said. Adrienne kept her hands visible, rolled the window halfway down. Officer, can I ask why I was stopped? You were drifting between lanes, Mercer replied, shining the light into her face. Didn't signal. Looked like you might have been drinking. She raised an eyebrow. I wasn't. License. And registration, he said again, louder. Without argument, she moved slowly, reached into the glove box, and handed him the documents. This is a government vehicle. I'm a federal employee. He glanced at her ID. Military? Yes, he smirked. Doesn't mean you're above the law. I never said I was. Step out of the vehicle, he said, his voice sharp. Adrienne blinked. Excuse me? I said step out of the car. I'm doing a sobriety test. Her jaw clenched, but she stayed composed. On what grounds? I've cooperated. I haven't been drinking. I'd like to know the reason. Mercer stepped closer. Now you're refusing a lawful order. No, I'm asking for an explanation. That was enough for him. He yanked open her door. Get out of the car, now. Adrienne quietly turned on her phone camera and hit record. Just so we're clear, she said, this conversation is being recorded. Mercer hesitated for the first time, eyes flicking to the phone, but he didn't back down. Out. Now. She stepped out. Tall, confident, not aggressive, just steady. Even in civilian clothes, her presence was commanding. Mercer studied her a little longer this time. Something in his head whispered, what am I dealing with here? But pride shut it down. He made her walk a line under the streetlights like a weekend. Drunk. She passed, no stumbles, no slurred speech, no hesitation. Still, he wrote her a ticket. Failure to stay in your lane. Adrienne took the paper without a word, just a look. Then she got back in the SUV and drove away. What Mercer didn't know was that ticket would end up in court and change everything. Mercer had been a cop for 15 years, hardened. He'd seen it all, fights, crashes, the worst parts of the job, and he'd built a reputation. Rookies straightened up when he walked in. He liked that. He gave orders, not explanations. That badge meant authority. Didn't matter if it was a teenager mouthing off or a driver asking too many questions. He never backed down, never apologized. Back at the station, he barely mentioned the stop. Logged it like routine. Failure to maintain lane. Possible. Impairment. No arrest. Tossed his body cam on the charger like he always did. The footage sat untouched for 2 days. In the break room, he joked about it. Some woman tried to pull rank on me, he told Officer Diaz. Flashed her government ID like it was supposed to scare me. Diaz raised an eyebrow. She military? Yeah, Mercer said. Name was Wallace. Adrienne Wallace. Diaz's expression shifted. Lieutenant Colonel Wallace? She spoke at the academy last year. She's not just military. She runs logistics at Fort Wayne. Bronze Star. 2 deployments. She's the real deal. Mercer shrugged. Don't care who she is. On the road, I'm the law. But something in Diaz's voice stuck, a note of respect Mercer couldn't ignore. Still, he didn't check the footage. Didn't give the ticket a second thought. To him it was done. But it wasn't. Adrienne wasn't the type to raise a fuss over nothing. She wasn't emotional, wasn't confrontational. After 22 years in uniform, 2 tours overseas, and countless life or death calls, she didn't have time for petty drama. But this was different, because this wasn't just about her. This was about every young soldier she'd ever mentored, every civilian she'd seen mistreated. Mistreated every woman, especially every black woman, forced to stay quiet just to avoid trouble. But she wasn't staying quiet anymore. The next morning, Adrienne sat in her office at Fort Wayne, staring at her screen. She hadn't slept much, not from anger, though she was angry, but from replaying the stop in her head, the way he spoke to her, the way his hand hovered near his gun, the way he tried to provoke her. She knew how bad it could have been if she'd lost her cool, her aide. Sergeant Daniels knocked. "You good, ma'am?" Adrienne looked up. "Number, but I'm handling it." He stepped in, closing the door. "I saw the video. You want me to call the base lawyer?" "Already done," she said. Daniels hesitated. "You sure you want to take this public?" Adrienne leaned back. "I'm not looking for drama. I'm looking for accountability." And she meant it. She had spent her career leading with discipline and integrity. Her rank wasn't just a title, she'd earned it. She'd commanded convoys in war zones, organized disaster relief, managed soldiers and supplies across 4 continents. But none of that mattered to Mercer. To him, she was just another driver who didn't obey fast enough. And that's what bothered her most, how easy it was for him. So she made calls. To military lawyers, to the Inspector General. She attached the video, filed a complaint, and let the facts speak for themselves. By the end of the week, Mercer's name was tied to an investigation. The department's lawyers were notified. Adrienne kept working, stayed quiet. But behind the scenes, she was ready. Her lawyer had said the stop wasn't just rude. It might have broken federal rules, and if needed, they'd go to court. Adrienne didn't hesitate. She was ready. Mercer still thought it would blow over, until the envelope arrived. Plain, thin, just a manila folder with his name typed on the front. He ripped it open in the parking lot, expecting another memo, but it wasn't. It was a court summons. A civil rights complaint had been filed. Plaintiff, Lieutenant Colonel Adrienne Wallace. Charges: unlawful detainment, intimidation, abuse of power. Mercer stood there for a moment, staring at the paper. Then he walked away. He laughed loudly. "No way," he muttered. "No way this holds." But when he went back into the station, the air had changed. His boss, Officer Reading, called him into the office. The door closed. The blinds were drawn. Reading began, "We need to talk." Mercer sat with his arms folded. "About what?" "The woman from the other night. She's acting like the victim." Reading wasn't smiling. "She's not pretending. Do you even know who she is?" "I don't care who she is. She got stopped, acted rude, and now she's upset. I didn't treat her like royalty." Reading leaned in. "She's not just anyone. She's a high-ranking officer, a war veteran. Her record is perfect. She has powerful friends. And she has the whole thing recorded. From her view and yours." Mercer shrugged. "So what? We just give up and apologize because she has rank?" "No," Redding said. "But we can't act like this is nothing. You're going to court. And if this gets out, which it will, it'll explode." Still, Mercer stayed stubborn. "She wasn't even arrested. I didn't lay a hand on her. I followed the rules." "You were tense, Dan. You made things worse. You treated her like a criminal before you knew who she was." Mercer pressed his lips together. For once, he had no quick comeback. the notice, said the court date was in 3 weeks. By then, rumors had spread through the department. Quiet talks in the locker room, strange looks in the halls. No one said anything to his face, but Mercer could sense the change. He wasn't the tough guy anymore. He was weak now, and the others could tell. Back at her base, Adrienne got ready too, but differently. She didn't shout to the news or beg for sympathy. She met with her lawyers in private. They watched the footage again and again. She wrote down every detail of what happened. She was calm, collected, but determined. Her lawyer, Delaney Price, sat across from her. "Are you sure you want to take this to court? It's public. It'll stay with you." Adrienne nodded. "Good. Let it." Price paused. "Most people would have dropped it." "I've ignored too much already," Adrienne said. "This isn't just about me." She wasn't after money. She wanted proof, something official that showed power didn't mean you could act however you wanted. Silence wasn't the only choice. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who had ever been disrespected, ignored, or pushed around by someone hiding behind authority. When the court date arrived, she didn't slip in quietly. She walked in wearing her full military uniform, badges, medals, her rank clear for all to see. She wanted the jury to see her not just as a woman in a car that night, but as someone who had served her country, followed the rules, and expected fairness in return. Mercer was already sitting when she entered. He turned, saw the uniform, and, for the first time, his smug look wavered. But the real challenge hadn't begun yet. The courtroom was full, not with reporters, not yet, but with officers from both the local police station and Fort Wayne military base. Adrienne's fellow soldiers sat quietly, dressed in uniform or formal clothes, side by side with regular people who didn't fully understand the case. This looked like a simple traffic stop, until it wasn't. For Adrienne, it marked a breaking point, the culmination of something deeper that had been building for years. Mercer sat at the defense table, stiff and unreadable, his jaw tight. His lawyer, Charles Brenner, leaned in and whispered something, but Mercer didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the judge. When Adrienne was called to testify, she stood, straightened her collar, and walked to the witness stand with the same quiet confidence she once used to lead troops through hostile territory. There was no rush, no hesitation. Every eye in the courtroom followed her. It wasn't just the medals on her uniform that commanded attention, it was the weight of what she had earned. The judge cleared his throat. "Colonel Wallace, thank you for your service. You may begin." Prosecutor Delaney Price stepped forward. "Lieutenant Colonel, could you describe the night of January 17th? Adrienne's voice was even, steady. "I was driving back from a meeting at the Indiana Guard Reserve around 11:15 p.m. when Officer Mercer stopped me. I wasn't swerving. I wasn't impaired. I cooperated and asked standard questions, but he responded with hostility. She recounted the interaction with clarity, free of emotion. He told me to get out of the car without giving a reason. When I asked why, he raised his voice. That's when I began recording. Did you refuse any direct orders? No. Did you resist? No. Did you identify yourself? Yes. I told him I worked for the government and was in an official vehicle. The room was silent. Then came the videos. First Adrienne's phone footage, then Mercer's body cam. The contrast was sharp. Adrienne, calm and compliant. Mercer, loud, aggressive, his hand near his weapon, even as she stood still and cooperative. The shift in the jury's mood was palpable. Brenner took his turn. Lieutenant Colonel Wallace, isn't it possible Officer Mercer was just doing his job? Adrienne answered without pause. No. Couldn't he have been concerned about safety? I was driving normally. I was sober. I posed no threat. But you recorded the stop. Yes. Experience taught me that silence isn't safety. I wanted proof, Brenner pressed. So you believe officers shouldn't use judgment? I believe judgment requires self-control. A badge is not permission, it's responsibility. Even the judge paused. When it was Mercer's turn, he declined to testify. The court played the videos again, frame by frame, each moment showing Mercer's escalating hostility. The prosecutor questioned him. "Sergeant Mercer, why did you order her out of the vehicle?" She seemed suspicious. "Did she disobey you?" She questioned me. "Is that illegal?" "No." "Did she threaten you?" "No." "Then why escalate?" Mercer had no answer. "Did you know she was a lieutenant colonel?" "No." "And if you had?" "I might have handled it differently." That was it. Not an apology, but a crack in the facade. That night he hadn't seen a person. He'd seen someone who didn't comply fast enough. Now, faced with her rank, and the weight of a courtroom, the truth was plain. But the verdict still lay ahead. 3 days later, the courtroom was quieter. No reporters, no uniforms, just Adrian, her attorney, and a handful of observers. Mercer sat beside Brenner, trying to appear unaffected, but his clenched jaw betrayed him. Judge Cynthia Morales read the verdict. In the case of Wallace versus Mercer, the jury finds in favor of the plaintiff. Mercer shifted. Adrian stayed still. The court rules that Sergeant Mercer violated constitutional rights during an unlawful stop. His actions fell outside departmental standards and professional conduct. No cheers, no outbursts, just the quiet gravity of accountability. Mercer's lawyer leaned in. "We'll appeal," he whispered. But even he didn't sound confident. Judge Morales continued. "No criminal charges will be filed, but the victim is awarded $35,000 in damages. This ruling will be permanent in the public record and submitted to the Department of Justice and the Toledo Police Department for review and policy adjustments." Adrienne gave a single nod, not to the judge, not to the jury, but to herself. She had done what she came to do. Outside the courthouse, Mercer lingered near the steps, dodging the cameras with a folder over his face. He made no statement, just got in his car and left. Inside, Adrienne glanced at her phone. A message blinked on the screen. "You won. Case closed." Her lawyer approached. "You could have asked for more." "It wasn't about the money," she replied. "Do you think it'll make a difference?" Adrian looked toward the courthouse doors. "I don't know, but maybe next time he stops someone, he'll hesitate." Reviewed the case. Some whispered he might be moved to a different job. Others said his career was over. Either way, the protection he once had was gone, and everyone could see it. At Fort Wayne, Adrienne returned to her role as if nothing had happened. She didn't want to be seen as a hero or give interviews. She had tasks to complete, people to train, missions to run, and duties to fulfill. Within her team, the lesson was clear. You don't always have to shout to earn respect. You don't have to fall apart to prove you were hurt. Sometimes staying calm says more than anger ever could. Even with the court's decision in her favor, Adrienne knew the battle wasn't over. Holding someone responsible isn't just about punishment. It's about what comes next. 2 months later, Adrienne stood before a room of new recruits at Fort Wayne. Most had only worn the uniform for a few weeks, young, eager, ready to serve. She wasn't there to discuss battle plans or supplies. This time she spoke about leadership, what it means when no one is watching. She scanned the room and asked, "How many of you believe a uniform automatically makes people respect you?" A few hands rose, some unsure, some confident. She nodded. "I get why you'd think that. But here's the reality. Respect isn't given. It's earned, with every action, every choice." She let the words settle before continuing. The same goes for power. The badge, the rank, the authority. It's not armor. It's a burden. If you can't handle it with honor, you don't deserve it. In the back, a young soldier sat straighter, listening more closely. Adrienne paused. When an officer stopped me and forgot his duty, I could have screamed. I could have frozen. I could have ignored it. She met their eyes. I didn't. I recorded it. I reported it. I went to court and told the truth. A long silence followed. That officer thought his badge made him invincible until he saw my rank, not just on my uniform, but in how I stood my ground. That's the difference. That's real leadership. The room stayed quiet, not from disinterest, but from understanding. Adrian shut her folder and looked up. Lead with honesty. Serve with honor. And remember, you don't just wear the uniform. You represent everyone who ever wore it and everyone who ever will. She stepped down, not for praise, not for thanks, but because her message had landed. Let this be a lesson. Power without responsibility is just a disguise for fear. Speak up. Hold firm. When you see injustice, don't look away. Because silence helps the wrongdoers, but courage defends everyone.